means that you have said no to someone or something. And it is, or time is our most valuable resource. And I think that from my experience, people underestimate the value of it. So I thank you for investing your time and your energy into being with me here to listen to me speak about one of my most favorite topics, which is time management and productivity. So I don't know how familiar you are all with Zoom. There is a chat window because I'm going to be asking some questions, and if you can just kind of type in your responses in the chat window, that would be great. So if you could just kind of take a look now and acknowledge that you have found the chat window by saying yes or here or something. I see 2 in the chat. Hello, present. Catherine looks like she's still looking for it. If you look up to the top where it says close to stop and share, you select more and it'll be the first option. Or you can do Alt H as a shortcut. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. So what I wanted to talk about, like I mentioned before, is about time management. And I wanted to kind of emphasize the way I've greeted you. Like I said it, you know, I asked you, I greeted you acknowledging your investment of time and energy. And so I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint slide to kind of go through why our time is our most valuable resource. So if you can respond in the box by letting me know, do you often feel 5 days out of 7 that you have too much time to pursue the things that are most important, too much time to experience real deep joy, too much time to find inspiration in your day? How many of you feel 5 days out of 7 that you have too much time for those things? So we have whatever, not me. Nope. Catherine says nope. All right, so it looks like I was being a little bit overambitious. How many of you feel that you have just the right amount of time? Just the right amount of time to pursue the things that bring you joy, to do the things that are most important, and to find your inspiration. Just enough time. Okay. Your Shamika saying yes with some balance. Anyone else? Some days, but not most. So is it safe to say that most of you, the rest of you feel that there's just not enough time in the day to pursue the things that are most important to you, that bring you joy and allow you to find your inspiration? I have a yes. Joanne, what are your thoughts? Did you find the chat box?
Hold on. Oh, I'm on.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just because I am so technology not savvy. But no, I don't have. The last one that you said, because I was trying to get in the car. No,
fact of the matter is,
there's no balance. I need time. I need this. I really do.
you need this.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Regardless of how we feel about time, and you guys know where I'm going to go with this, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. And because we cannot control how we feel about time, what I want to do tonight is to teach you how to make the best use of your time. How does that sound?
That sounds wonderful.
That sounds good. And so that's what my business, Inspired Outcome, is about. I am a productivity and organizing professional, and I teach strategies around how to organize your schedules, how to organize your belongings, and even how to organize your ideas so that there's always time in your schedule to do what's most important.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight, what I'm going to do is talk about 3 different strategies that I teach my clients around time management and productivity. That first strategy is around setting your intention. So right now, I am indicating to you what my intentions are, right? The first strategy is about setting your intention. And this is where you define your priorities, which allows you to stay focused during the day, especially when things are a little hectic and crazy. The second strategy that I'd like to talk about today is around planning. This is where you take time you're making time in your schedule to get the most important things done. And that also allows you to start and complete projects. And the third strategy that I'm going to talk about today is evaluation. And this is where you're finding value in your failed attempts. You're not beating yourself up about a missed deadline. You're not talking to yourself in a very negative way about how your lack of discipline is keeping you behind. What you're doing is talking to yourself in kindness so that you can find lessons learned as to how you can better improve your situation to get to greater success later on. Spending this time in evaluation allows you to feel accomplished each and every day versus you just kind of beating up yourself and not learning any lessons. These are the 3 strategies that I'm going to be talking about today. So So you guys ready for the first strategy, setting your intention?
Yes.
Awesome. So can we agree that time is a limited resource?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what I mean by that is time is a limited resource that cannot be replenished, right? Once it's gone, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be deliberate about how we invest our time and our energy into the day. If we show up each day as a blank slate, waiting for the day to unfold based on what emails we get, what telephone calls we receive, and then you combine that approach to a day where everyone has access to, whether it be through social media, through text messaging, you will end your day feeling overwhelmed, blindsided, and wondering what happened today. And so the first strategy is really about setting your intention and being deliberate and purposeful about what it is you take out of your day. And here's what I mean by that. Just sharing an experience from my life. In 2013, I decided that I wanted to reclaim my time so that I could reclaim my life. This was after feeling completely dissatisfied with my 12-year career. I felt trapped in my inability to be present when I was engaged in meaningful activities with my family and friends, and I felt overwhelmed on a daily basis with all the activities that I had to do. I felt that although I was busy all day, every day, that I had accomplished nothing. And these pictures, although I have a little bit more melanin than in these pictures, this is exactly a visual representation of how I felt on a given day. Can you guys relate to ending your days just feeling exhausted, you're tired, and yet feeling you haven't moved forward on any major goals that you have set?
Yep.
I see some head nods. So at that time, my approach to life, I would wake up every morning saying, oh my gosh, what is going to happen to me today? What fires and emergencies was I going to be required to put out? Because I work for the federal government, right? And so what calls will I be getting from the federal government, from Washington? That's just going to take me off track. Were my children going to be unreasonably demanding of my limited time and resources? At the time, they were 5, 6. And then I wondered when I woke up each morning, was today going to be the day that I was going to feel somewhat accomplished? And so I started my day as this blank slate, just not knowing what my day was going to be. Was I going to have a good day? Was I going to have a bad day? Was I going to have a productive day? Was I going to end my day as I did many other days, just completely exhausted? I often felt that my life was just these leaves being blown in the wind and continuously caught up into this relentless storm. I would show up and then someone would create a demand that would blow me to the right. Then someone else would come in and ask for a request and blow me to the left. Then I would get an email and then just had no rhythm to my day. I didn't have enough space in my day for my leaves to just rest so that I could kind of regroup and be strategic about how I was going to start my day. But in 2016, that storm stopped for a brief moment. Like I said, I worked for the federal government, and at that time, the government had just shut down. And while I was getting calls and emails, everyone asking, how are you doing with this tragedy? Are you okay? I had guilty pleasure because for 16 days, I had a blank schedule. I had this period in time that was not scheduled. I didn't have to show up for work. And for the first time in 12 years, I was able to finally have those leaves that I mentioned rest. And when I looked around my life to assess the damage that this continuous storm had caused, I realized that I was running on empty for a very long time. And I was very strategic as to the areas of my life I looked at. I took a look at my health, and at that time, I was going through physical therapy because of stress. The woman who had no time now had to make 1 hour once a week to go to physical therapy because of stress. I was tightening my muscles, which were making it difficult for me to walk. I was having insomnia, waking up in sweats. I thought I was going through early menopause. I took a look at my career, which I had invested 12 years in, and yet I wasn't enjoying what I was doing, and I had gotten passed over for at least three promotions at the time. I looked at my relationship with my children and with my husband and realized that when my children were asking, Mommy, 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 look at this. Mommy, 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 help me with this. I was seeing that as unrealistic demands on my time. I wasn't seeing it as them just wanting me to be a part of their life and to engage with them. I saw that as a burden. I looked at my personal growth, and what I had replaced that personal growth was trying to stay on top of emails and trying to be responsive to any and everybody that came made demands on my schedule. And so I wasn't growing. So here I was 12 years in a career, and I had not learned anything new in a long time. And so that was embarrassing, right? I've been there for so long and was not able to take on new projects because I hadn't grown and developed. So when the government shut down, I did my assessment in those areas of my life. I also spent time looking at what success would look like. What would make me happy and satisfied in my health, in my relationship, in my career, and what things would I want to pursue in my personal growth and development. And so once I got clear on that vision, and this is in the span of 16 days, once I got clear on what I wanted those areas to look like, I came up with some action steps as to what I can do, what things can I do on a daily basis to move me from where I was to where I wanted to be. And so at the end of the 16 days, that storm started up again. And I don't know if you could see the slight difference in this image. But when that storm started up again and the demands of work started and the children came asking and I had to go back to work, one thing was different. Can anybody see the difference in this image than there was before? And I'll go back. So this is the original image where I felt like I had no control over my life. And then once the storm started up again, this is how I felt. Can anyone see the difference?
You kind of like, you blocked the storm a little bit. You were able to separate it.
It's a barrier.
Exactly. Exactly. That barrier was my intention. I didn't show up as a blank slate. I came in back to work knowing exactly what I wanted success to look like. I now understood what I wanted from my work, what I wanted from my relationship, what I wanted for my health. And so that journey took me 3 years to fill the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. And what I learned from that experience was that it wasn't more time in my day that I needed and wanted. What I needed was more freedom to invest my time and my energy into what had some meaning for me, what brought me joy, what was my inspiration, and what was most important.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward now, I am no longer that overwhelmed employee that worked for the federal government. I am now my own CEO of my business. I am no longer that mother that was unable to be present. I am completely and fully engaged with my children. And now I actually have joy in my life on a daily basis versus sporadic moments that were coming up before. And what I'd like to share with you today is to kind of walk you through those steps that I took that took me 3 years and kind of shorten that journey for you to help you create that blueprint that I found very helpful. So I'm not sure if you were able to receive the worksheet that I sent today. Do you have that worksheet? It's called the Wheel of Life.
Where'd you send it?
Some people received the worksheet and some didn't. If you want to put your email address in the chat box, we can send it to you later.
Okay.
We give phones, that would be awesome.
And so if you don't have the sheet, the specific worksheet, I'd like you to at least have a piece of paper. Do you have a piece of paper and pen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this Wheel of Life. Okay, can whoever isn't muted mute themselves? Are you able? Okay, awesome. So this Wheel of Life, which is found here in the left lower corner of the slide is a tool that coaches use to measure their clients' level of satisfaction in the different areas of your life. So if you could do this graph or a wheel. Let's start with the wheel since that's what I have here. You have a piece of paper and pen. Go ahead and draw a circle. And you're going to divide that circle into 8 different sections. We have work, exercise, creativity, learning, partner relationships, community or volunteering, family, and social life. These categories are interchangeable. You can use it to measure any area in your life that you want to measure to determine your level of success, or just somewhere that you want to track. The handout has slightly different categories, but you'll get the same idea. Now, the way the wheel works, it has a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being the lower level or the lowest level of satisfaction, and 10 being the highest level of satisfaction. So whether you're going to draw the wheel for yourself or use the worksheet that was provided, if you can take some time right now to measure your level of success in the different areas of your life. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. And the purpose of this wheel is to provide you with a visual representation of how you're feeling about your life. The wheel isn't to project how you want to feel. It is not a tool to judge how you performed or how successful you are in your life. It really is about how do you currently feel in these different areas of your life. And it's the same assessment that I did for myself that I mentioned earlier when the government shut down. So we could use this webinar as your calm in the storm. Since you're here investing your hour, let's just be really deliberate about our time and not overlook this exercise. Anyone want to share their observation, anything that surprised them about what how their week has turned out? And so the purpose of the wheel isn't necessarily to have, pardon? The purpose of the wheel isn't to have a perfect circle, right? The purpose of the wheel is to make sure for yourself that you don't have too drastic of a deviation between your highs and lows, so that the wheel, it kind of talks about, you know, lets you see that there are areas where you can smooth out the ride, make it less bumpy. So if you have something that's a 10 and somewhere that's a 2 or a 3, then you're going to find that, you know, the deviations between one area to the next is really drastic, causing that ride in life to be really bumpy. Because here's the deal. The areas that are really low will eventually impact your high areas. It kind of drags you down. So you want to work to make sure you have that balance where the differences between your highs and the lows are not too great. And so in looking at your wheel that you've just completed, I'd like you to choose 2 to 3 areas where you would want to see some improvement. And in those areas, identify 3 activities that you can do to improve your level of satisfaction in that area. Is that clear to everyone? And so in using this wheel that's on the slide as an example, here is social life on the wheel, which is gray. So the three things I would probably do in that area to improve my level of satisfaction in social life, one would be to schedule a monthly meetup with my girlfriends, would be one of those activities. The second activity that I could do to improve my social life would be once a week connect by phone with a friend. And the third one would be create a go-to list of all the activities that have a social aspect to it. So that's the example of what I'm talking about. When you look at your wheel, look at the 2 to 3 areas that are really low that you'd like to see improvements on, and then identify 3 activities that you can do to improve your level of satisfaction in those areas. Anyone want to share any surprises or observations that they made with their wheel? You guys are awfully quiet.
Yeah, there's the hard questions.
I was going to say, this is Shanna. I think for me, this wheel is it's interesting from a situation or from a timeline perspective. I think had I done this wheel a few months ago, it would be quite different than it is now. And so it just kind of re-emphasizes for me how these things are always evolving, ebbing and flowing, and just trying to keep your mind focused on keeping them, within a certain level of satisfaction as you kind of cross the different transitions in your life. So that was interesting for me.
Great observation. And that's the good thing about this tool. You can use it on a weekly basis, monthly, annually. It's not a one-time thing. You want to use it as frequently as you need to, just to kind of touch base.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Does it make sense, the observations that you've made? Because from doing this exercise before, what I've found is some people find that the areas where they're low are the areas that they haven't really paid attention to, and they haven't even thought about it until they've done this wheel. They're like, oh yeah, that's right. You get so hyper-focused in one area that the other things kind of fall apart. And so I like this tool. I start my sessions with them all the time because it's a nice visual of what your life is. Because what the wheel does, it's supposed to serve as a representation of you as a whole person. So by going through this exercise, you've actually completed strategy number 1, which is to set your intention. So if you've gone through the exercise, the first thing is about assessing your life. Then you determine the areas that you're not satisfied with. Then the next step was to create some action steps, 3 activities that you can do to improve your level of satisfaction. And now we're done. Thank you for coming. Just check this out.
They're like, really?
So this is the part of my business that I really, really enjoy, right? Because chances are the reason why you signed on was that your plate is already full. Your plate is almost overflowing with things. And yet here I asked you to identify 3 more activities to do to add to your agenda so that you can get more joy, fulfillment, or do things that are important. And so this is what I do. I help my clients to plan how I help them find time in their busy schedule to make time for those things that they themselves have identified as important and joyful and inspiring. And so I'm going to share with you some tips as to how you can incorporate these activities that you should have identified, because you're not in front of me and I can't see if you wrote anything down. So I am going to take your word and assume that you've done this step, right? So now that you've had, in some cases, you might have 6 new activities or 9 new activities to incorporate in a very busy schedule. So here are some tips on how to do that. A lot of folks that I work with tend to keep things in their heads. They keep a running list of to-do activities. And I'm going to test that right now with this group. Chances are, as you've sat here, your mind has wandered off at least once or twice, thinking about something that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about here. And the reason why that happens is, one, it's probably something that you've thought about more than once today, but because you hadn't acted on it or written it down, you keep it in the forefront of your mind so that you won't forget. You're worried about it. But here's the deal. Our minds are not meant for storage. Our minds are meant to be creative and strategic. And so if you have a running list in your head of all the things you need to do, and then you combine that to this world where we're always connected and you're bombarded with new information, you will feel overwhelmed. You will end your days feeling emotionally exhausted. And you will end your days feeling like you haven't accomplished anything because your mind, instead of being strategic and creative about moving certain agendas forward, you're busy juggling all these things. So this chart that I have here is a tool to help you get all that stuff out of your head. And it's called a mind sweep. Some people call it a mind dump, whatever you want to call it. It is a way to just kind of get things out of your head and into a place that you can trust. For me, I am electronic, and so that's where I have my running to-do list. So enjoy paper. And the way to know which tool is best suited for you is to determine, to kind of follow how you keep track of things that are time and date sensitive. And this is what I mean. If you are more comfortable with a paper calendar, you're going to be more successful using a paper to-do list. If you are more into electronic calendar, you're going to be more successful with keeping your running list electronically. And if you choose to do one or the other and still keep stuff in your head, you might as well not even go through the step, because once you have some stuff in your head and some stuff written down, you're not going to trust the system and it won't work. So I encourage you, it's like an all or nothing kind of thing. So when creating your mind dump, I would recommend that you dump according to those categories on your wheel. And you'll see here that I have replicated the categories based on the wheel. And just like I said, the wheel can be interchangeable in any area that you're interested in making a change. So on my wheel, I had career, I had family and friends, romance, fun and recreation, health, money, personal growth, physical environment. So I'd like you to take this time right now to create your columns and do a mind dump just for a few minutes. Try to write down everything that's been occupying your mind, all the things that you should do, you want to do, or you ought to do. The next step after you've done your mind sweep is to marry your task to time. And that's what you see in this chart. All these numbers in red are the minimum amount of time that if I dedicate it to this activity, I can make some progress. Doesn't mean you're going to finish it, but the minimum amount of time that you can dedicate to these activities that will allow you to make progress. And you should be using no more than 3 increments of time. You could do 15-minute activity, 30-minute activity, or 1 hour. Or if you want to do 5, 10, 15. So using no more than 3 duration of time, marry those activities that you just jotted down to the minimum amount of time you would need to make some progress on these activities. Doesn't mean you have to finish it. And hopefully the mind sweep includes the 3 activities from the Wheel of Life exercise. Those 3 things that you can do to improve your level of satisfaction in those areas. Are you all still with me?
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Carly, are you with me? All right. So you've set your intentions. You've done your mind sweep. And now I'm going to teach you how to plan. We're getting feedback here. Can you mute again, please? So now that we have our intentions, we have our list. Now we're at the scheduling aspect. How to create time, plan time in your calendar to do the things that are really important. So as you will see, I had already asked you to categorize your to-do list. And here's a trick that made a huge difference for me. I categorize my calendar. And here's what I mean by that. I realized that on Sundays, I would get completely stressed out about Mondays to the point that I had insomnia. And then, so I had to assess, why is that? Why are you freaking out on Sunday and losing your last day of your weekend, thinking about a day that hasn't happened yet? And from my personal journey and analysis, I realized that I was stressed about Monday because I didn't know what the day would bring. I didn't know how full my email inboxes were going to be. I didn't know who was going to call me. I didn't know what demands were going to be made on Monday after having a restful weekend with my family. And to change that, I decided to change my Mondays. Thankfully, I do have that flexibility in my work schedule. So if you don't, we could talk offline about how you can create flexibility in a more restrictive work situation. So for me, I changed my Mondays to be my follow-up Mondays. And so any of the activities that would require me to touch base with someone else and not have to generate any information, I would dedicate to Mondays. So Mondays was if someone owed me an email, if someone owed me a report, if I needed to check on someone to ensure they understood some instructions. That's what I use my Mondays for. Mondays are my follow-up days. Knowing that Mondays weren't going to require me to produce anything allowed me to have a restful Sunday. And now I actually look forward to Mondays. Tuesdays, the category that I changed Tuesdays into were my more demanding day. Now that I started my Mondays kind of assessing what I needed to do for the week, touching base with folks, making sure everyone provided me with what I needed. On Tuesday, I felt energized. And so on Tuesday, I dedicated my time to activities that required me to generate more energy. That's the days that I do my research. Those are the days that I write my reports. Those are the days that I engage in meetings that may require some level of negotiation. So that's how I categorize my Tuesday. And one of the things that I noticed about myself in assessing my time and energy is paying attention to my natural rhythm and my energy levels. On Mondays, you know, I needed to kind of get my energy up from being restful on the weekend. By Tuesday, I was ready to kill it. By Wednesday, my energy would dip a little bit down because it was the middle of the week. So on Wednesdays, that's when I would take in information as far as any kind of personal development, any training, reading about my industry, and I would also use that time to see, follow up on anyone that I had perhaps missed on Mondays. Thursday were my high energy days again. Once again, I would dedicate that time to doing reports, doing anything that I just didn't enjoy out of my work day. So that would be dedicated to Thursdays. And then Fridays, I would go into planning, mapping out what would be required for the upcoming week. How does that pertain to you? Think about what your energy level, your energy cycles are for the week. What days do you dread? Why are those days dreadful for you? And are there tasks that can be kind of switched around to match your energy and your interests based on your work and your personal life? And as you think about those things, think about what from your mind sweep can you then, where can those activities be assigned to your calendar based on what I just described, your energy level, your interests, the things that are going to move you forward. So the things that bring you the joy, the things that are most important should be matched up to the days and the time in the day where you have the most energy, the most concentration, and the most freedom in your time, where their demands are less on your schedule by others. Does anyone have any questions about what I just said? I just said a mouthful. No?
Oh.
All right. So we talked about intentions, how to set your intention, look at your whole life, choose the areas that you're least satisfied with. Then we talked about what 3 activities you can engage in to improve your satisfaction. I just gave you 2 tips on how to make time for those activities. 1, you're marrying time to those activities, where you, at a quick glance, what can you do in the shortest amount of time to make progress? Then we talked about how you can organize your calendar to create pockets or categories that match up with your energy and your interest level. The 3rd step is about evaluation. Find time in your schedule to evaluate how you're doing. Now that you've identified those areas that you want to improve your level of satisfaction, you've determined what activities you want to do, and you've looked at your schedule to see where you can match up those activities with your energy level. If in, say, 21 days to 30 days, you still have not engaged in those activities, you still have not increased your level of satisfaction in those areas, then it's important to ask why. Why did you not follow through on that plan? Why did you not make time? And the answer could be a lot of different things. Maybe you put that activity in the wrong place in your calendar. Instead of putting it at the beginning of the work week, because that's the busiest time, and you need to kind of catch up from the time you've been off work over the weekend, can you put it midweek? Can you put it at the end of the week? Can you shift it around from morning to evening? Instead of dismissing your failed attempts to get these things done, really take some time to evaluate as to why. And from that conversation that you have with yourself, where you're not being judgmental, you're not being harsh, you will get a blueprint as to how you can structure your days to be more successful moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no value gained when you, oh, that's just me being lazy. Oh, I lack discipline. Oh, here I go again, never following through. You absolutely get no information that is going to help you to move towards success. You want to focus on the dialogues that happen in your head that gives you answers and move you forward. Dismiss those negative talk that add absolutely no value. And so what I'd like to challenge you today, research shows that it takes 21 days of engaging in a new activity to build a habit. Because one of the things that I've learned through my own journey and through lots of reading and research is that it's not discipline that is going to allow you to make change in your life. What will make the difference is creating habits. And habits are things that you do without even thinking about it. You know, and wherever you have well-established habits, you have the ability to make these changes. So example, you wake up every morning, you brush your teeth, you get dressed, you comb your hair, you do all these things without even thinking about it. And they're well established and you're successful at it. Use those kind of areas of success to determine what tweaks can you make to adopt a new practice and to do something new in your life. And here's an example from my own life. In the area of health where I was struggling, like I said, I was going to physical therapy once a week when I didn't even have, feel like I had time for that. I wanted to get back into shape and take more control of my life. But I felt like I didn't have time to do that. I did an assessment of my days and found an area where I was indeed successful at. And what I was successful at was getting my children up each day and out the door on the bus. And I wondered, oh, what can I tag on to this well-established habit? My daughter, Olivia, takes 30 minutes to get out of bed. From the time I wake her up to the time her feet hit the floor, takes her about 30 minutes. And so during that 30 minutes, I would have to go in and out several times. And I couldn't get anything done, right? Because every 10 minutes I had to go in. Olivia, it's time to wake up. Olivia, it's time to wake up. And then I realized, I said, you know what? This is 30 minutes that I could get some exercise in. So I would go into her room with my yoga mat, with my music, and instead of walking in and out, I did my exercise right there. So every time I come up, I would say, Olivia, wake up. And then I go back down. Before I knew it, I had 30-minute window of exercise. I was able to wake up Olivia because she was taking up 30 minutes anyway. I served as a good model for her, and I got my exercise in. That activity I did for 21 days. I felt really successful that finally I was able to get 3 days of exercise in. That built up my momentum and made me feel a little bit more confident to take it one step further. The next step was, well, I get them on the bus 3 days a week, and I'm very successful at that. So instead of getting in on the bus and then walking back inside to start my work day, I thought to myself, why not walk for 30 minutes? Just pass my house and walk for 30 minutes and then come back in. I did that for 21 days. And after a while, once I built up that habit and I felt pretty confident and felt good about myself, I said, hey, why not change that walk into a jog? And then eventually I changed it into a run. So I say this to say, if you have well-established habits already and you're trying to adopt one of those 3 steps that you've identified that could move you closer to having more satisfaction, think about a well-established habit that you already have that you can tag that activity to. Anyone have an example that you want to share from what I'm talking about, that, oh, you know what, I think I can do this new activity and tag it to something that I already do all the time?
Well, I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So every morning, I like to start my morning with some type of inspirational speech. There's this one pastor I listen to, Terry Savelle, and she always talks about, part of that, she always talks about, just you getting up and doing it in the now. So it usually takes about 15 to 20 minutes of me listening to that. So I guess what I can tack on, because I do have like an extra 10 before I head out the door, is to spend some time doing some research a little bit more on self-development on certain areas for myself, whether like it has to deal with, for me, where I want to do my designs, whether it has to deal with some research for that. So I guess I can add 10 more minutes on after me listening to that speech on a daily to add more time to do some more research on my designs.
Perfect. Anybody else?
I was thinking, this is Joanne, when I drop my son off at school, because he has to be there at 8, and I always go down this particular street, and there's another school, and people are walking around there. And since I'm trying to create a habit of doing more walking and eventually like jogging and running, instead of just coming maybe straight home, I could just go right there and take 20, 30 minutes to go walk before I go on with my day.
Exactly.
So I think about
Perfect.
it. I look at it all the time, and I see them walk. I'm like, there's no reason why I get out of my car and do it.
Yep, exactly right. And like I said, and as small of a step that may seem to be, the feeling you get from successfully accomplishing that one small thing propels you to take on something else. And so it creates that momentum. And I challenge you to do that. Choose one of those 3 activities that you said will allow you to feel more successful, and do it for 21 days. If after 21 days you found that you were not successful, and the reason you were not successful was because you didn't have an accountability partner, or you wish you were you wanted more support, or you needed a reminder, or any of those things, that's where I come into play. I provide that kind of resource, and I do that through a mastermind group. So I do workshops. This is a webinar example, but I do workshops, and I provide you steps and strategies. I give you that challenge. And if after the 21 days you were not able to make progress in those areas, and it's still important to you, then my mastermind group is a group of 5 women that committed 4 months out of the year into dedicating time to making that advancement in the goal or the area that they're looking for. And so through the mastermind process, you get that encouragement from the other members. You get the resources that you can exchange about tips and tricks as to how you can move along. Example, I had a client who wanted to eat more healthy, and so she wanted to make more smoothies, and so everyone was kind of sharing examples of recipes and so forth. We communicate on a daily basis via text messaging, Facebook, and through a tracker where you record daily what it is that you're going to do to move you along. It's my most favorite part of my business, actually, just kind of helping people move forward in their challenge. So I appreciate the time you all spent with me today. I hope I did a great job in advocating the importance of setting your intention, creating a plan, doing an evaluation, and then taking on the challenges. The challenges are basically mini experiments that you do with yourself over a 21-day period. If you're successful, tackle another one. If you're not successful, be gentle and kind to yourself and ask why. What can I do differently? Can I shift things around this day or that day? Do I need an accountability partner? Should I recruit some friends? Maybe this goal is just not even that important at all. Should I tackle another goal? Any questions about what I've shared today?
No, it was very informative. Very helpful.
I just have one thing that you touched on very slightly. When you like to stop
Sure.
stop the negative self-talk. What are some kind of tips to kind of keep motivated? Because when you're in that 21-day phase, you know, you'll make it through, and sometimes you get to the point of where it's like you get that kind of laziness or that procrastination in yourself where you're like, oh, you know, I don't want to do it today.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tips to kind of keep you in that mindset that even when you don't want to do it, to give you that will to get up and do?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So the thing that gets you through that is really getting connected to the outcome that you're looking for, right? Because if you focus on just, I want to lose weight, that can fade away, especially when you get busy and overwhelmed. If you focus on what it would feel like, what is the life experience you're going to have when you lose that weight, which means you're going to be more confident, you're going to be able to engage in activities that you haven't been able to engage in before, you're going to be proud of yourself. When you connect to the outcome of your goal, that is what is a stronger motivation to get you through those tough times.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I'm not, an example is with my mastermind group, I spent 30 days, a full month, working with each member on defining their goals. So if you come to me and you say, my goal is to get a better job, we work for 30 days, really breaking that apart. What will that ideal job look like? How will that ideal job contribute to your life? Does it mean that you want more flexibility in your hours? If you say, I just want more money, what would more money mean to you? What kind of freedom will that give you as far as, your travels, how you will interact with family and friends? So it really is about connecting to the outcomes of the goal.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Well, we're all over time now.
Cleonie, I want to thank you so much for your time and your knowledge. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. I definitely recommend everyone definitely reach out. Your contact information is above. And also, if you want to email myself at Cleonie, we can get you more information. And I will be sharing the video on Facebook and email.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome.
It was nice meeting you all virtually.
Nice meeting you too. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you
thank
so much for your
you.
time.
Have a great evening, everyone.
You too. All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.